POC Network here with another unboxing and tutorial, this time coming from the company Rollts. Now, if you've been following us in a lot of these shows, we do attend, every year, CES here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And one of the companies we have spoken to many times at that show is Rollts. And Rollts started off a long time ago. They were a small company that produced what was called the Rollts, I believe it was Communicator. It was just a communicator at the time. They didn't have an official product name per se, at least they're calling it something else. I think it was Communicator. But it was a interesting little device that pretty much acted as a two-way radio, but a digital two-way radio. And they were expanding on it, wanting to make it so that, they can get further with it, a lot of different features and some amazing things packed into it. And we interviewed them and had this great discussion with them. Well, they turned into something big. We kind of assumed they would because it was a cool product. And they became a Cisco partner. And then they gave it a name, a more detailed name called the Domino, the Rollts Domino. And the reason why they did that is because it's shaped similar to a domino. It's about the size and kind of the weight of a domino as well. Now it can be extended on larger networks and can travel on forever for as far as you want to set up repeaters. And it's tiny, it's simple, and it kind of looks like something you'd see from Star Trek. And today, we got our hands on some of these thanks to them for some of our shows. We'll be using these, and if you catch us on any of the different shows that any of our teams go to, you might just be able to see them carrying, or at least wearing one of these, and feel free to ask them questions. But for now, we're going to pop this open. We're going to see what each one looks like. We got both of their normal models, the E1 and the S1. We're not only going to show you what's inside of the box, but we're also going to go through how to set it up. How complicated it is, the menu options and everything else, to kind of give you an idea of how difficult this process is, which really it isn't. But we'll start off with their simple one. This is their new model, their E1, or a newish model. It came out a couple years ago, which is kind of a more simplified version, despite E versus the S, but simplified version of the S. So think TVs. E is like more the economy, I guess you would say, a model, so smaller, lightweight, less power or whatnot. And then the S1 is the one that has the built-in speaker and is a little bit bigger and has more stuff, sort of, kind of. They both pretty much do the same thing. But we'll start off with the E1. And the first thing you come to is an instruction fold-out, which is front and back. It just talks about, kind of FCC warnings, as well as a run-through of what all the different options are, that connectivity and then the menu options and so forth. And we'll go into that in just a second. This is the E1 Domino. So as you can tell, it literally is the size of a domino. It's small, it's lightweight, and it's a two-way radio. And what's really cool with this model is, since it's kind of, smaller and packed, it has most of the features except for the speaker, I'm pretty sure, yeah, right? Yes, no speaker, it has a microphone. This one does require the ear set, where the other one doesn't. But the button configuration on this, it's slightly similar, slightly not. It's actually completely different, but it has a lot of the same stuff. For one, you have this button here, this little switch, that's what turns on the unit itself. And then you have a volume up and volume down. You have a menu button, you have a small little hole here for a microphone, a micro USB port at the bottom of it, and look at that, that's it. And it's really simple, except for one thing. The one thing we didn't cover is, how do you push to talk? The actual face of the unit itself is clickable. So you just press on the face of the communicator, and that's what triggers the push to talk. They do send you everything you need. So you have a USB to micro USB connector here for charging the unit with. You also have what they call the necklace. This just goes around your neck, and it goes through the unit here and allows you to just wear it around your neck, so you can just take it on and off really easy without having to actually clip it on. Or you can skip the necklace and just simply clip it onto your shirt somewhere, and you're good to go. It comes with this little tube here, which is for kind of like secret agent mode, to run it behind your ear, around the top and in. So that way you can have more of a kind of a neater kind of setup, so the cable's not as easily noticeable. You don't have this big earbud sticking out of your ear. This just adapts it so that the sound travels through the earbud into the tube and into this little earpiece and into your ear. It works fantastic. You're supposed to have an earbud as well, but it looks like we don't have that. It could be because this was probably just a random unit they sent to us. This may not be an actual, I don't think this was a closed commercial or consumer available, or the normal one that you would get, but it should come with an earbud that plugs into this. And being that your only connection here is a USB cable, then I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the earbud is going to be a micro USB to headphone connected headphone. If you look at the instructions, it says right here, you know, the adjustment of the air tube, and then it says connecting to the device. It shows the USB cable. So this has a maybe a proprietary cable to go into this for it to use as a headset, but it more than likely comes with an adapter as well, I'm sure. That just probably was inside the bag that's not in here. No big deal. We'll move forward onto the next one over here, the S1, because this is going to be the main focus. This is their original unit. This is what they're popular for, and it does have all of its pieces in here, so that we can guarantee you will be much better to get an idea of in terms of how everything goes together. So the S1, you pop it up. Now this one you can tell is a brand new one. This one wasn't, you know, again, this is probably a demo or something they sent us, you know, so they might not have noticed that that was missing the cable. But this one, it still has the plastic on it. It just protects the front of it from scratches during shipping. But this is the S1, so this is their original communicator. It actually has a physical, or at least a visual button, you know, a button you can actually see. It's right there with your typical buttons going around it for up, down, menu, and well, whatever the C stands for. Continue, something. Those are your menu buttons right there anyways. You press and hold the M button to bring up the menu, and then the C and the M pretty much acts as your left and right scrolling through your menu options, but we'll get to that in a moment. So on the front, you have your 5 buttons. You have your push to talk, up, down, C, and M. The bottom has nothing. The right side of it has a typical on button, or at least the switch. You have a headphone jack connector for the little headset. You have a micro USB connection for charging it with, and you have another push to talk button right there. So you have 2 ways of push to talk. You have the one on the side and you have the one in the center. And then you have this kind of a loop section on the top, which is just a dedicated area for the necklace accessory that we discussed a moment ago for it to go through, so that way it can just hang off of your neck. We'll go through some of those options again in a second once we go through the accessories. You have your same manual that breaks everything down, shows you what all the menu buttons are, and or just commands, control buttons and switches are, and how everything goes together headset-wise, and how to trim the tube and everything else. Same thing as the other instructions. This is the tube and your adapter right here. This adapter is for when you're not using their headset. You just want to use any headphones or any earbuds or anything like that. This will adapt you to any normal pair of headphones. If you choose to use theirs, it does come with theirs, and which theirs works just fine. You'll probably find yourself using theirs more than anything else, unless you need something longer, I guess, or something to go into a recording device. But like I mentioned, you have multiple tips. You got 3 different tip sizes to choose from, and a small little, there it is, push to talk button on the headset as well. You have, of course, the necklace, and you have the USB to micro USB for charging. And again, this one, the USB is just for charging. So the headset, it's really simple to work with. It looks like any other pair of earbuds, only it's just a mono. It's just one single earbud. Like I said, you have an inline push to talk button, and regular little, this one you have 3 rings here, TRRS connection that goes into the side, and you know, you're ready to go in ear with it. The gel comes right off in order to adapt to the around the ear little piece right here. What you do is you cut this down to whatever sizes works perfect for you. So you're gonna wanna put it in your ear pretty much, you know, and try to wrap it around and figure out where is the end coming out. Do you need to shorten it up? Is it too long or anything? If you have a smaller ear, you might wanna shorten this. Like for me, it, for the most part, feels kind of just right, so I probably wouldn't trim too much off of it. And then you would take their little plastic adapter here, and you would apply it, and you just kind of force that into the tube right there. And this goes in place of where the tip was, and just plugs in just like that. So then it goes around your ear, around the top of your ear at least, into your ear, and you have your little secret agent mode to go with your radio. The headset's the easy part. The menu takes a little while of getting used to, but by a little while, I'm talking couple minutes. If you've ever programmed a regular 2-way radio, you know, even family radios, you know, radios that kids can buy in the toys section, for crying out loud, in the store. If you're familiar with channel 2 communicates with channel 2, you know, so 1 doesn't speak to 2, 2 doesn't speak to 8. You have to be on the same channel, and then you can talk to each other. But it's kind of similar to how you would set one of these up. It's really simple. You would go through the menus, and you have different options for groups, channels, and an encryption as well, you know, so it's a little bit more advanced than just your typical family radios, 2-way radios, but this is more like the higher end consumer models that can do sidebands and everything else, you know. So basically you have groups, and within those groups you have whatever channel you want to choose within the group, And as long as the other radio is set to the same group and the same channel, you'll be able to communicate. And the same thing goes through for an encryption, because if you just leave it without the encryption, anybody that has a radio that's able to tap into these frequencies will be able to hear you or even communicate with you maybe. So with the encryption, which is really cool that Rollts builds into these, is that you can create a custom encryption code. And this thing's big too, you know. I think there's like, I don't know, it looked like there's like 15, 20 digits in there that you can customize. It may not be that many, but there's a lot of digits. And you set and you just create a code out of that, and that becomes your custom code. And as long as both radios, or however many radios you're using, contain the same encryption code, they'll be able to communicate with each other. If they don't, then whichever one doesn't won't be able to hear or communicate with the other radios. So this is just more of a security thing to create a sense of privacy for you, so you know that nobody else can hear what's going on your network of radios. And speaking of network, these can actually go beyond just two-way communication, or just radio communications. These, I believe, the S1 radio can go as far as 2 miles, and the E1 radio, and this is going off of memory from a few years ago, I believe the E1 is like just under 1.25 miles, so it's a little bit over a mile. So you got 1 mile, 2 miles, and then you can extend onto that as far as you want using repeaters. So if you're in a building where two-way radios might be interfered with by walls and ceilings and stuff like that, you can set up repeaters just like a Wi-Fi network throughout your business or other place of use, and be able to connect these to the repeaters to talk to each other, which can also go to Wi-Fi, which integrates with Cisco, and you get the point. These radios have a lot of power to them and a lot of range, at least in the capability for such. But without the repeaters or any of the other stuff, they're just a two-way radio. And they're just a really cool one. They're a digital version, so it sounds crisp and clear. And now we're going to get even deeper into all those kind of instructions and settings and everything to confuse you even more. But we'll talk about what that means to you in terms of crisp, clear, the ability to talk over each other at the same time, like a cellular connection, and all that fun stuff. So the menu itself has a number of different options. And again, if you've set up any of those radios, especially if you've done a professional radio where you can actually set frequencies and everything else, then this is gonna be a piece of cake to you. You're gonna go through this menu and go, oh, I get it. So talk mode. Talk mode is the first thing that comes across in the menu when you're switching around. And talk mode is basically what I was discussing or covering when I said that the communication can go both ways. In a normal two-way radio, when you're talking back and forth, only one person can hear the other one. The other one has to wait for the other person to let go before they can talk back. Well, this offers full duplex, which means they can go both ways. So like a cell phone connection. So while they're talking, you can talk at the same time. And this also offers full duplex as well, which means you can have up to 3 people talking at the same time. So that makes it great for like hospitals or anything like that. So if 2 people are going at it back and forth, a doctor and a nurse or something, but there's something going on in ER and they need people down their stat, they're able to butt right into that conversation and let them know that. That's just one scenario, and it shows you the power of these radios right there. They also have additional modes. I don't know if it's listed here, but you have pretty much like, I think it's hi-fi duplex. There's half duplex, full duplex, and tri-duplex. And the half just means one way. That's regular two-way radio. Full means both can talk, and tri means up to 3 people can talk. The hi-fi, I think it's hi-fi or high-def, I think it's hi-fi. Listen, there's additional options which cover the same thing, half, full, and tri-duplex. And that just means you're gonna have higher quality signal, so you're gonna be able to hear each other a little bit better. And it's not gonna be, like in regular duplex, it's a little bit muffled. You can still hear each other just fine, but they do that to save, I guess, battery and distance because they can go further in that mode. In the higher definition mode, or the hi-fi mode, excuse me, you can hear each other a lot better, but the distance isn't as good. So you sacrifice distance a little bit, unless you're, of course, on repeaters, Wi-Fi, and all that fun stuff. And then, of course, it ends with the option in that menu of repeater, and that is when you assign it to a repeater, and then you take that repeater and assign that to everything else, and then the repeaters pretty much become your control center for communications, and they're like slaves that just talk to the repeater and it routes everything around. And if you want to use Cisco and all that fun stuff. That's for commercial users with big buildings and complex networks or people in the field, like emergency responders and things like that. If they have repeaters set up, like on cell towers and stuff like that spread all over the place, you can go for it as far as you want. So that's menu option 1. Now we're going to move to menu option 2, which is channel. You have 50 channels to choose from. And this is where it's saying, as long as you have the same channel and group and all that, you know, and the encryption, as long as it's matched between the radios, they'll be able to communicate with each other. Channel, you have 50 channels, so that's like the two-way radios, regular ones, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. Groups, you have 1,000 groups to choose from. You know, so again, choose a group, then choose a channel within the group, and, you know, now you're, you know, say you're channel 24, group 856. That's pretty specific. So far right now, you are isolating yourself pretty well already. Menu option 4 is encryption, and that's where you have that code. It doesn't say here how many digits it is, but it's encryption code for special security. So that, I mean, the code really signs it off for you. It's gonna be very difficult for somebody to crack your code and kind of listen to you, and really they have to know you're out there to begin with to start cracking your code, I guess. So chances are that code is gonna make you pretty darn secure. So 1's your talk mode, 2's channel, 3's group, 4's encryption. So those last 3, that's what you need to match everything up with. 5, you have your PTT or Vox, which is push to talk or vocal. And that's how you're triggering how the unit communicates with all the other, or at least how you're gonna send any kind of communication out with that one communicator. So PTT means you can send communication off with these buttons. VOX mode means it actually listens to you. So once you start talking, it'll recognize your voice and go, okay, you're ready to talk, and it'll start communicating your voice. So that's good more if you're in a more intimate situation where the only reason you are going to talk is to communicate with other people around that are using the radios. You're not going to want to use that mode if you're in a hospital and you're talking to guests and doctors and everybody else all at the same time, because then that's going to get really confusing really fast. The next menu option is the Vox level, so that's in terms of its sensitivity to picking up your voice. Then you have emergency. Emergency is a mode that just basically defines what to do if you hit it multiple times, just I think it's like 3 times quickly within a second or two. That'll create an emergency call which goes out to everyone regardless of encryption or anything else, I believe, just letting you know there's an issue and they can respond back to see, you know, how they can help you. You know, it's kind of a useful and kind of a feature for this. Side tone. Side tone is menu option number 8, and that's just basically you don't want to have that enabled when you're using the speaker. You want to have that enabled only if you're using the headset, and all that means is that you can hear yourself. So when you talk, some of that will go into your ear. So side tone is just going to be that. So you can hear yourself. So some people like to, you know, they just feel more confident that their signal is being transmitted to the other radios when they can actually hear themselves speak. Then you have mic gain. Mic gain is just obviously the sensitivity of the microphone itself, you know, so how powerful is that mic going to get? You know, is it going to pick you up really strong and hot, or is it going to be really weak and just barely pick you up? Obviously, you set that up to whatever works best for you. The default setting works perfectly fine, so you probably won't have to worry too much about that. Roger beep, that is going to be, turning that on is going to be when you hear that little beeping sound, you know, that signifies that you hit the button. So beep, and you know, beep, beep, when you let go, that's your Roger beep, sound effects and all. But you turn that off, you don't hear that. You just press the button, you can talk, let go, it's just quiet. Most people, I guess, turn off the beeps unless you're outside or something in a noisy area, so that way you can tell once you've got the button engaged. RF power is the intensity of the actual transmission of the signal coming out, going to and from this. Now it's going to be, you got low and medium and high power, and you know, obviously low means you're not going to go as far, it's not going to be as powerful, but you're also going to save on battery life. In the middle, I think it's medium, medium, doesn't say, but there's always a middle of the road one, and that one's going to give you a nice balance. You're going to get a decent range, and you're going to sacrifice a little bit on battery, but not too much. And then high power is going to give you a ton of range, but you're going to take a pretty good sacrifice on the battery in exchange for that, you know, so it all requires power. You have clone set. That's the next option. That's option number 12. That is a very useful feature because using a clone set, you can set one to send and the other one, I believe, it's probably just as easy as that, and send, and the other one is just set to receive. And you're able to clone within, I believe, like 1 to 3 meters to another radio, or multiple radios, I guess. So that way you can share all your settings to that radio, and really it's sharing the essential settings. All it is sharing your channel, your group, and even your encryption. That immediately joins the radio to your network of radios, and now you don't have to manually set all that information, including that incredibly long encryption code if you set one. The clone setting is great. Saves you a lot of time, so that way you only go through all those features on one radio. It doesn't change anything else though, so all the custom settings that are really to that radio, like Vox setting versus push to talk, all that stuff is still safe for you to determine what that one radio should be used best for. Then you have number 13, which is default set, which kind of explains itself. It sets everything to the manufacturer's default settings. So just what it was when it came out of the box. And then of course 14 is version, which tells you what version the radio is, you know, what's inside, the firmware at least. So that's also self-explanatory. That's it. That's the menu. There's a lot of words there that I just shared with you, but it's not as complicated as it seems. And if you've, like I said, if you have any experience with radios in the past, especially anything more advanced than your typical family radios, you know, regular channels 1 through 10 or whatever, then you're going to read these instructions, and even everything what I just said is going to make perfect sense to you. And to you, you're probably sitting there shaking your head at me right about now going, this guy talks way too much. But I wanted to make sure that person that doesn't have any experience with any of that understands what we're talking about as well. So sorry. For those that do understand, you're just gonna have to endure the pain of my many, many words. So there you have it. This is the Domino radio. This is the S1 and this is the E1. The S1 is just slightly larger, their original model, and then their E1 is the more compact, like super compact. I mean, it's like half the size. It's thinner, it's smaller, it's pretty cool. You know, so it's just a couple sacrifices, you know, so you don't get as much distance. Again, 2 miles, 1 mile. Of course, if they're connected to a network with the repeaters, then that's whatever the repeaters are set up as. So it all depends on what you're looking for, what you need. If size matters, no pun intended, you know, then, you know, you're gonna choose what you need for your specific situation. If not, then you might want this. It offers more features, more distance. There you have it. Again, the Domino by Rollts. You have the S1 and the E1. They're really cool radios. They're very versatile, and they do sound pretty cool. And these aren't connected. I think we have 2 connected. You'll just have to take my word for it. I was gonna actually talk through one, but it'll probably feed back since they're so close anyways. But go check them out. Go check out Rollts' website and go research them out elsewhere online. I don't know if they're available for sale anywhere else but Rollts, but go check them out, see if they're a good fit for your company. And of course, for more information, you can also go to plcnetwork.net. We've discussed this in the past, and also on YouTube/PLC Network, where we've had multiple interviews with Rollts. And of course, you can go to the video tab on PLC Network as well and search for Rollts. So thank you for watching. We'll check you out next time, or at least you'll be checking us out next time. Of course, if you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to subscribe. The button's right below, and there's a place for discussions down there in the comment section where we'd love to hear from you and answer any questions you might have. And if we don't have the answer, maybe Rollts does. So there you got it. Again, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.